We're just gonna start this video off with the old back scratch because I got an itch in the old back. Welcome to the FF Forge. My name is Steve, and today we will be looking at the running back rankings as well as the wide receiver rankings, quarterback rankings, tight end rankings. They'll all be coming out today in separate videos, but this is the running back ranking video in case you couldn't tell from the title. These are my preliminary rankings, and that is most extremely stated for my running backs and wide receivers videos because of the method of doing these videos. Why don't we crush cred? All right, there we go. I got that fixed. I did not resize this after shooting the wide receiver video. So, where was I? The reasoning behind me really stressing the fact that these are my preliminary rankings is because I do start off with the ECR for these rankings. These do not have my input from my projections yet. Those take some time, so I like to get these videos done, then do those projections. But I do have my projections done for the quarterbacks and tight ends, and you can see how they look there. There are ceilings, there are floors, there are expected ranges. It is a set of projections that I work from in order to make determinations. Now for this video, I have the top 48 based on ECR, and then I move them around, and that can play some mental tricks with players to different extents, and sometimes players can be ranked oddly, and so they might even show up here in this video just because we don't know if they're playing or not. So different rankers, some might not have them ranked at all, some have them ranked. So I do my best to catch that and acknowledge that. But let's just get to the rankings. Did I mention the rankings can all be found up on Thursday at www.theffforge.com, and there is a link down in the description to that. So now let's get going here with the top 12 running backs, starting off with Saquon Barkley at number 1 this week. Then I have Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, Alvin Kamara, Nick Chubb, Delvin Cook, Jonathan Taylor, Joe Mixon, Ramondre Stevenson, Ezekiel Elliott, and Miles Sanders in at the 12th spot. There's definitely probably going to be some shuffling around throughout the week through this area of the position. One thing I do also want to mention is the difficulty of the matchup. Is it a good matchup or a bad matchup? It's essentially all that is. Here are my rankings, and here you can see how if I'm above the ECR or below. And so the players that we are looking at are players that I had a significant amount above the ECR, and below the ECR are going to be the ones that are in red. The ones like Alvin Kamara, who have 4 spots above ECR at the 5th rank, ECR has them at 9th, are highlighted in green. Now, it is not the best matchup for Alvin Kamara, but Alvin Kamara beats teams in all different ways. Through the ground, through the air, and I always want to say by ground, by air, by sea, but there is no sea in this. Oh, could you imagine football with water? Like, not rain, like golf, just like big old pits of water in the center of the field. That'd be fun. All right. So as far as Alvin Kamara goes, I like him this week. There is no specific reason he hasn't got a touchdown this week, but we're not going to spend too long here because you're starting Alvin Kamara. There is no way that you're not going to start him. Don't care what the matchup is. And that's going to continue to be the story for the most part. However, there is potential here. So let me start off by saying I do believe that the top 19 running backs here are all must starts. Roughly, that's my cutoff. And that said, it is very possible for a team to have 3 or 4 of these running backs just based on draft capital that would have needed to be spent. So I am going to speak on these players to a certain extreme here in this area, which means Ezekiel Elliott is not up next. I have him 4 spots ahead of ECR. The ECR is 15. I have him at 11. It's a pretty good matchup there against Chicago, even with what they did last week against New England, which was quite impressive. But Dallas does have this focus on the run this year. It's a good run attack. It's multifaceted. Chicago got very lucky in the turnover department last week. They recovered 5 of the fumbles that they put onto the ground. All 5 of the 5 that they put out there for anyone to recover, they recovered. So that's pretty insane. Dallas is going to see that on paper, and their defense can turn the ball over pretty well. So you can bet your butt that they're going to be going for that, and that's going to help this offense all the more and help that rushing attack all the more if they can do that successfully. So I do like both rushers here this week against Chicago. Just like last week, I liked them both. On to Miles Sanders, who I have 12th. ECR on him is 16, so I have him 4 spots ahead of ECR. It is a relatively neutral matchup. Pittsburgh is not the easiest rushing team, but, Philadelphia is pretty good at running the ball. So the only concern about having Miles Sanders up this high is he doesn't get too many touchdowns. So this is more of, it's not like, my rankings aren't always going to be, I think this player is going to score more than this player. Sometimes I think this player is a safer bet to not bust, to not have a bad game. And so I think Miles Sanders is a pretty good bet to not have a terrible game for you in a week where, once again, probably going to have to do some shifting around here. For instance, DeAndre Swift will probably be moving up. This is partially a byproduct of what I was talking about, where we don't know if he's going to be playing or not. So rankers have him all over the place. And I moved him up 4 spots ahead of the ECR up to 13, ECR 17. It still probably wasn't enough, but it's just this weird mental thing when you're moving players up that you feel like you're doing something wrong. So let's list off the RB2s. Starting off at 13 was DeAndre Swift. Then we have Christian McCaffrey, Dameon Pierce, Aaron Jones, Leonard Fournette, Raheem Mostert, Travis Etienne Jr., Tony Pollard, Devin Singletary, Najee Harris, David Montgomery, and in the 24th position, Michael Carter. Did not talk about DeAndre Swift. Going up against Miami, this is totally going to be dependent on how the news comes out this week. DeAndre Swift could move up as far as, I would say, up ahead of Alvin Kamara into the 5th spot this week. Or he could fall back further if we're getting news where it's for sure he's going to be on a massively limited snap count and there's a bunch of concern with him going into the week. Then, well, he'll have to move down a little ways at least. Maybe like ahead of a David Montgomery or something would be that scenario. So back end RB2 if it's bad news throughout the week, top end RB1 if it's good news throughout the week, or somewhere in the middle. Now on to Christian McCaffrey, who I have 9 spots behind the ECR. The ECR is 5 on him. I have him at 14 going up against the Rams. That is a very tough rushing defense, but Christian McCaffrey can do more than run the ball. Here's my issue here. I don't think he's going to have a full workload, a full understanding of the playbook yet next week. I think he will still have room to grow. Like, I don't think he'll have his full usage in this week compared to what we'll see for most of the season. Good thing about Christian McCaffrey is he can catch the ball. However, as far as a running back changing teams mid-season, the easiest part of being a running back is run the ball up the middle and find the hole and go through it. The tougher part of a running back and in a playbook is the route tree and the connection with the quarterback and just knowing the plays. So it's a lot easier to tell your running back in the huddle, hey, just go up the B gap. Okay, got it. So if there's any part of that game that is going to be fully not there yet this next coming up week, it's definitely that passing game, which is going to be the best way to attack the Rams. So I don't know where I'll end up having them ranked yet, but I don't think I'll have them top 5 like the ECR. There's still too much concern, but you're probably starting him, but maybe you'll be in a situation where you're not. On to Dameon Harris, who I have 4 spots behind the ECR. The ECR on him is 11. I am at 15th. Going up against Tennessee, they're very good at stopping the run. Now, Dameon Pierce has shown that he can catch the ball a little bit, so that is very helpful. That's probably about the reason that I still have him ranked this highly. He scares me every week because it just comes down to that ground attack, and especially if they go behind early, you could see that diminish to some extreme. And that brings us to my 17th player, who I have 7 spots behind the ECR, Leonard Fournette, who is ECR 10 right now. ECR, by the way, stands for Expert Consensus Ranking from FantasyPros.com. Going up against Baltimore this week, that's a pretty neutral matchup, not a great matchup, not a bad matchup, as you can see by the white here. My biggest issue with Leonard Fournette, what's holding him back here, was the amount of uses that Rachaad White got last week. That is a bit concerning for me, being someone who has thought from the beginning of the year that this could end up being a split backfield, or Rachaad White could even end up being the leader in the backfield by the end of the season. I mean, it's possible that we're starting to see that tide shift there. And if that were the case, then obviously Leonard Fournette's not going to get the same amount of opportunities, and probably will make it a lot tougher to be the 17th ranked running back. So that is that. Now on to my RB3s, starting off with my 25th running back, Gus Edwards, followed by Deonta Foreman, Eno Benjamin, Brian Robinson Jr., James Conner, Damian Harris, Tyler Algier, Jamal Williams, Kareem Hunt, Darrell Henderson, and in at the 36th running back, Khalil Herbert. Now, Gus Edwards right up top, I have 6 spots ahead of the ECR. The ECR on him is 31. I have him ranked 25th. Going up against Tampa Bay is not a great matchup. This just comes down to, there's just this big list of guys at this point, even going prior to this, really up to my Tony Pollard, where you can make arguments for and against a lot of them. Not even, starting really at David Montgomery is where things start to get truly questionable, I think, or arguable. And so as far as Gus Edwards go, I do expect him to have more work than he did in the previous week. I just don't have other players higher. It's that simple. Then Deonta Foreman, I have going up against Atlanta. I have 6 spots ahead of the ECR. The ECR on him is 32. I have him at 26. It's a pretty good matchup. They're going up against Atlanta. If we are expecting to see Carolina do what they did last week against Tampa Bay again this season, this would be the week that we're going to see it going up against Atlanta. So, yeah, I think that's very possible. And right now I'll just mention that Chuba Hubbard could also see himself go up. Maybe they equalize each other out a little bit somewhere in between. But did want to mention that I'm almost surely going to have Chuba Hubbard ranked higher than where I currently have him ranked. This was a side effect of the ECR rankings that I noticed right before hitting record. Let's move on to Eno Benjamin, because for Deonta Foreman, that's what it is, going up against Atlanta, like the matchup. For Eno Benjamin, James Conner may be coming back. And so I have him 4 spots behind the ECR. The ECR on him is 23. I have him at 27. Now, this is also a case of where some rankers are expecting James Conner to be back and ranking like so. Some are not. Also, some are going to be thinking that James Conner is going to move right back into a starter role. Maybe some will think he moves right back into the same role that he had before his injury. Others are going to think that James Conner has a starting role, but he's going to have less workload than previously. So I'm going to have them ranked really closely, but I do think I'm going to end up ranking Eno Benjamin above James Conner. But that is really the reason why I am so different than the ECR for both of these guys. So I don't want to speak on them too much. Going up against Minnesota, so it's a decent matchup for them. Do expect there to be at least like 1 touchdown opportunity in Minnesota, and that's where I do like James Conner as far as the touchdown opportunity goes. A little bit bigger than Eno Benjamin. So that is that for those two. We'll just move on to this group of guys who I have all ranked 6 spots below the ECR. So I have Jamal Williams ranked 33rd. ECR is 27 on him. Going up in a decent matchup against Miami. I will potentially have him ranked higher than this. I just didn't really know who to rank him higher than. His ceiling this week is right in with the Foremans, like the guys sharing backloads here. He's right in with that group. I guess this group is all like shared backfield group guys. I do like his opportunity for a touchdown this week. And also, of course, part of this ranking may be an assurance of DeAndre Swift yet. So, gotta feel the news out for that all week. As far as Kareem Hunt goes, I also have him 6 spots behind the ECR. ECR 28, I have him at 34. Not a great matchup there going up against Cincinnati. It's been a while since he's had a good day, so maybe this will be the week, but not really something I want to bet on, especially while he's on the trade block. They may want to feature him for 5 plays, give him 5 really good plays to get some suitors to give him 1 round higher of a draft pick or something like that, but they don't want to injure him. Then Darrell Henderson Jr. going up against San Fran. Really, really bad matchup, but hasn't been as bad of a matchup for the last 2 weeks. Still not a great matchup. The only value that those Los Angeles Rams running backs had, in my opinion, for the last year plus, has been the touchdown upside of being on a high-scoring offense. Right now, they're not a high-flying, high-scoring offense. That touchdown upside's not really there. Their running backs are worth a diddly squat without being able to have, at least a touchdown being a probable thing, much less the chance for a second one. That's just all but disappeared there. So still have him in flex territory, but If I could avoid playing Darrell Henderson, I am. Let's move on to my running back fours, starting with the 37th running back at Latavius Murray, followed by A.J. Dillon, Chuba Hubbard, Antonio Gibson, Rashad White, James Robinson, Kenyon Drake, Jeff Wilson Jr., Caleb Huntley, Chase Edmonds, Alexander Madison, Nyheim Hines, especially once we get towards the second half of this. My projections will help me move around these guys along with another list of, I don't know how many names it is this week, 10, 15 guys or something that'll all shift a little bit here and there beyond how far these rankings go today. So that is it. Already talked about Chuba Hubbard there going up against Atlanta, so do like him a fair amount again this week as a option for people who are desperate at running back. He could be really good for you too. All right, that is it for the running back videos. So later on today, you will have the quarterback videos and the tight end videos. So look for those, please. And thank you very much for stopping on through. I already released the wide receiver video earlier today, so go check that on out if you haven't yet. Peace out.